All right. Welcome, everyone. As I mentioned, we have two top-level agenda items. There's some QA updates, and then I wanted to pick up the what we started that discussion last week on strategic planning. Is I just tried to outline what the top high-level bullets were. A lot of them turned out to be housekeeping related, which is fine. We get our house in order, then things will run much more smoothly. In any case, let's start with the QA update, and Pallavi, and who else did I see on here? So whoever wants to take that from GS Labs.
Yes, hi Larry, Pallavi.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, on the first 2 points that related to the UE RAM SIM, so updates are pretty much same as from the last week. Kunal was working on this, and just an update, Kunal is on leave for this whole week. Then on integration test of SDRAN, so that is done. We have created the Jenkins jobs which successfully builds and run the SDRAN. So as Hujang uh, uh, email that how to interpret the results. So I have added that validation checks in the jobs as well. Then the fourth point, to save the log files to the Google Drive when GNodeB SIM fails. So I am working on this. So I'm just locally checking how we can achieve this. So there is a G Drive option. So G Drive is a command line application that can be used for interacting with the Google Drive. So we can upload means log files from command line to the Google Drive.
That's good. Just open the floor to discussion. The plan here, we need to set up an Aether Jenkins user account on Google, I believe, so that there's credentials that that Jenkins can write these log files. I'm assuming that we'll then just make them read accessible to everybody. Does anyone have a better idea or plan for that? Just seemed like an obvious thing to do. All right, and just another note, and AJ, you've heard this one before, I think. I don't know, there's a dozen jobs that run every night, and every night 2 or 3 of them will fail, and they tend to be 4 out of 5 UEs connected, just from your standard GNB SIM profile to run.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, I was seeing all the logs provided by Pallavi, and yeah, I mean, it's surprisingly the issue seems to be the authentication content doesn't exist in the MongoDB. So, which is, I don't think that is the case, because I'm sure like configuration is provided, and that's the reason some other subscribers do pass. So either the most likely, not either, most likely it seems to be something to do with the before even configuration is pushed to the database, we are running the test. That is most likely the cause. So I can probably just see like what else can be done. Otherwise, the easiest thing is like taking a little bit more time into running the test and making sure that the configuration is downloaded completely into the database, and then only trigger the this profile to test, or for that matter any other test. And
so there's a runtime aspect of this. So if it's entirely about loading configuration, which happens in the distant past, unless you're running a test, that's one thing. But I guess that is what's happening here.
So yeah, I think there are some ways to isolate this problem. If it fails and if it doesn't harm, if we can rerun the test, and if it passed this time, then most likely that was the reason. And if it continues to fail even in the subsequent attempt, then then it points out to some other problem, which is most likely the configuration pushing into the MongoDB has not worked for some of the subscribers then, right? So
From the MongoDB, if all we did was put a pause, this is a hypothesis, if we put a pause between installing SD-RAN and getting the subscriber configuration information loaded into it, and then running GNB SIM, that from your, if you're right, that would address it, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, so I mean, typically I have seen like at least Purdue team, when they do the carry out the test for like few hundred subscribers. I mean, in that case, it's a few hundred subscribers. So they give some good amount of pause initially, because downloading those config and making sure all the database entries are populated takes time. And there's no clear indication from the SD code which says that, okay, everything is ready and now you can start your test, right? So it's so I mean, I have seen they giving the 5-minute pause, but that's like probably works well for their experiment for 500 plus subscriber.
All right,
But in
good.
this case, it is just 10, 20 or 30 subscribers are configured, if I'm not wrong, looking at the logs.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Okay, so we will continue to work on making the log files available, but I will go back and add a pause, and but we can take this offline just to set up something specific.
So yeah, I think we can do two things: either give pause and run it few times to see that if it consistently passes. Second is that without pause, if it fails, then reattempt it immediately and see if it fails. So both these things will help. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That we'll work on that. But I'd still like to make the logs available, but maybe it's less critical. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's good. So that's yeah. So
I want to add
that's the fourth sub bullet there. I'm sorry. Did someone else have something?
Yes, Pallavi. I want to add one point here. While I was taking logs, means I observed the MongoDB was crash, but I am not sure the why did it crash, and if the crash was the issue for that one UV.
So that might add to this AJ suspicion, because I've seen the MongoDB crash too and then recover. What that says is it's slower getting into it takes longer to get into a state that it's ready for work. When you said crash, the DB crash, that's MongoDB, right?
Yes, MongoDB.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember last time, I think Kunal or somebody from the GS lab had pointed issue that in their setup, they do see MongoDB crash. Not sure if this is something similar again then.
All right, so this is all consistent. MongoDB crashes, it takes longer to get ready. The emulation starts to run before the database is ready, even though technically it's up.
Yeah, I mean, seeing failure is perfectly fine but we expect it to pass in our test, right? That's something, because core rejects because it doesn't have the configuration, so it just rejects the subscriber.
All right, got it. All right, we'll work on that then. So the other top bullet here that just I want everyone to appreciate is the integration of SD-RAN. Thanks to Wuzhong, we now have SD-RAN running as part of Aether on-ramp. It installs, it uses, first you install the core, then you install SD-RAN. It's RAN configured with RAN SIM, so it's not supporting real UEs yet. And it runs an emulation, and you look at the output and it's all successful. So thanks to everyone for getting that working. We'll get it documented ASAP.
Yep, sounds good. No problem.
And UE RAN SIM also runs the one thing that, let's see, extend to, the one thing that is still pending is we wanted to run it against a local iPerf instead of just a remote iPerf server. But it's effectively, for a remote server, as far as I remember, it's effectively running correctly. Okay, thank you. Good progress there. So this next top level bullet, and feel free to add to this one, or if you prefer to call something else out in a separate discussion, that's fine too. But if you remember last week, we started these issues on the horizon, and we got some nice notes in here, which you can go review. I'm not going to repeat them. But when I tried to distill those down to pick it back up again, I realized that a big fraction of it was just getting our house in order. And we've been making progress. So repo housekeeping, that was both pruning out dated users and just cleaning up access. And I've done it on Open Networking Lab. Sean has been working on it on Ono's project, and AJ was working on it on OMAC. AJ, did you have anything to updates about that?
Yeah, I mean, instead of updating right away, I just added comment in like few rows in that Excel, where some of the places like permissions are not marked for any specific individual. So I have proposed what should be the right group. And in some cases, I propose that we can archive those repository.
Oh yeah, let me just add that here.
Yeah.
Archive repositories.
Right. There was something that I wanted to ask around the sort of QA and testing side of things, specifically when it came to the UE RANSIM. We were doing a little bit of UPF restart testing, and I noticed that if you've got an established session with UE RANSIM and you restart the UPF, looks like something's happening, either the PCPF agent's not being recommunicated and the TEID is being set up. But I'm just wondering if that's expected, that the UE doesn't reconnect automatically, that it just is lost in limbo, or if there's potentially something on UPF restart that hasn't been explored yet.
I can add this is a lot more involving question, but I can tell you like how it looks like from the standard point of view, and then I can say where we stand in the SD core.
Okay.
So from standard point of view, like if UPF is restarted, there can be two options. Like UPF may support the session backup in one of the database, or it may not support. Let's assume that in case it doesn't support any database backup, then it just comes up, and any subsequent messages or data or control messages coming towards UPF is supposed to reject those messages, control or data messages with the right codes, so that other peer network functions can detect that UPF has lost its states. And those messages triggers the further cleanup in the whole core network and eventually towards UE. This is what standard expects. In our case, if you are if you're using the simulation tool, simulation tool may not handle those error messages, and then only restart is the only option. But UPF also doesn't send the rejections on the data path. On control path, it does send it. So there is like bit of area which needs the work to make this whole UPF restart to work seamlessly. So
AJ, did I hear you say that part of the issue is a shortcoming in the UE emulation as opposed to the core?
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a both way, like so it all depends on what's exactly happening in the scenario. So let's assume that UPF restarted and it came up, and it doesn't have. If it has states, then everything is good. We don't need to worry. But if let's say it comes up, it doesn't have any state, and now there are two possibilities may happen. Like UPF may get some control event first, or UPF may get some data event. So when I say data event, that means the traffic for the UE comes from the UE side. Right. So, and if UPF finds that there is no state, then UPF can reject those data packets with some specific codes. It's typically called as an error indication message. It's just like a ICMP error in case of regular IP networking. And this error indication message has enough details which helps Gnode B to find out that UPF has lost the states. And then this thing triggers one new sync up kind of control plane signaling, which makes sure that UPF gets the current updated states back, right? So since UPF doesn't reject it, and as well as our emulator doesn't handle it, this thinking up all these states doesn't happen at all, right? So, but on the other hand, if control event is triggered, then UPF rejects the control message and SMF triggers that cleanup. That piece of code exists. Yeah, so yeah, it requires, so either we need to handle all this error, we need to come up with this error handling, or we need to add some kind of database within the UPF so that as soon as UPF comes up, it has those old states available.
Okay,
Also, Ajay, that once the PSCP reconnection happens, SMF would know that this UPF has restarted. So currently, we probably, I don't know if we trigger something towards the UE when we detect something like that, or we don't. We explore
don't.
that side too. Yeah.
One more comment. I don't know you, Ajay, remember when we were kind of like running these tests, kind of not necessarily comparing, but running the same test using OpenAir interface and UE run sim. And UE run sim was limited with the amount of messages sending back to the network when there was an error for reconnection and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Okay.
I've seen Mark's thumb go up a couple of times, so now you got your answer. Good.
Yeah. Thank you very much on that one. It was a question of, is it one or both? And the answer seems to be that yes, we've got some improvements in the UPF, but don't expect the UE simulator to be without its flaws either. So sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and actually Purdue University folks, they're testing a lot more on the control plane. So we have fixed many issues on the control plane side, but we have not done enough on the UPF side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So AJ, you just since you mentioned it, you have been getting a bunch of fixes back from Purdue.
I think we need to check with Bilal, like he has not raised the pull request, if I'm not wrong. He's waiting for something, but I do remember that we have fixed a good number of things in the SCTP, in the AMF, in SMF. Many places we have fixed the issues to handle these error cases.
All right, I'm just trying to fix up my
Ajay,
notes here. So one of those.
Sorry, and the Purdue fixes apply to both Ether and Ether Plus, or just to Ether
both.
Plus?
No,
Okay.
both.
One more question, Ajay, from the perspective of the UPF. What exactly are the issues, or maybe the issues that need to be addressed on the UPF side?
So the basic minimum thing UPF should do is that if it receives any data packet, uplink data packet from the UE, and UPF lookup fails, it doesn't find any session just because it has restarted, right? So it should initiate a error indication message, which is equivalent to ICMP rejection messages in the regular IP networking, right? So and then as soon as we have that, we can add some code in the Gnode V simulator as well to re-trigger the synchronization.
Okay.
Right. So
Cool. Thanks.
So I had a question from something that I learned from Bilal at Purdue, AJ. It might be a pretty easy fix. He found that the latency caused by metric funk, no, it was by the bus, which feeds metric funk, was substantial. And that when he turned the message bus off, Kafka, I guess, probably is, he saw dramatic improvements in latency. And we were speculating between the two of us that it might be that the write to the bus was synchronous instead of asynchronous. Does any of that sound familiar or possible?
Yeah, I think so. That's right. So we do see multiple messages going towards Kafka as a part of control plane signaling, and every message was roughly taking few milliseconds, and so eventually it adds a lot more delay. And unfortunately, he's using some, since he has not raised any pull request, right? He cannot take the changes from the SD core mainline. Because I do remember there was one of the pull request which disables the Kafka. So that code exists in the SD core, but that doesn't exist with the branch of code whatever Bilal is using, right?
Yeah,
And
he
the
was
solution.
he turned Kafka off himself, so that was
Yeah, so yeah, and he used some crude method of probably like disabling it, but that's fine. And making this thing asynchronized is possibility. Yeah, that's something can be done.
I mean, on the one hand, it's nice to get good numbers and know where your costs are, but on the other hand, in a real system, you would want metrics there, so you wouldn't want to turn them off. So
That's right. So keeping it on and making it asynchronous is the is what we should target, because
right,
we always want to have these APIs or Prometheus metrics available from the metric pod.
good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is all very positive that this stuff is happening. While we're focused narrowly on the core, any other issues people want to raise?
Are we going to talk here on the core perspective regarding the status of the repos, like what Jenkins jobs are failing, or what kind of permissions need to be updated or settings need to be updated in the repos, or is that a kind of separate topic?
Yeah, let's put that part of this housekeeping and just and it. I don't have it listed per se, but it really is underlying a lot of this. And that is, well, so first of all, DAP is now out sick. We're thin in numbers, and now we're even down from a small number to a 0 for a little while here. I don't know what to say. This is something we have to fix long term, and it's not like we don't have people like, last week Mark stood up and said, I want to help out with Jenkins. That's great. But there's a step that has to happen to get the permissions turned on, and I apologize for it. And it's we've got a situation where we have one person filling that role right now, and through a variety of bad situations, it's not working. So I don't know, Timon, if you want to, I see you're now on, so I'm going to pass the buck to you to see if we can figure out. The meta point here is we've got a lot of stuff backlogged on a number of things. For example, the one that I'm most keenly aware of is getting the base image, Docker image back up so that the registry is got an image in it that we need. And there's a other set of things like that.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm dialed into my phone. I was trying to find the unmute button there. So yeah, I think that Larry, you captured it. We have kind of a couple of overlapping things that have kind of all hit at the same time that have diminished our capacity in the infrastructure space, and we're kind of aware of the problem, and we are looking for a solution. It would be helpful to understand. So I heard the registry issue. I did talk with Daph yesterday. My understanding is the registry is back up. He's been rerunning some jobs, but it has to be repopulated. And speaking with him, it sounds like it might be in a state where the community could actually, contribute and put things in the registry. It sounds like it's kind of a iterative process of running jobs, finding what's failing, tracking down what needs to be repopulated. I don't know, exactly if that's possible or not, but that's maybe, just focusing on one issue versus the bigger picture. But I guess all I can say right here is that we kind of understand the bigger picture. We are trying to figure out how better to resource it, how better to enable the community to be able to participate in those things. So Larry, is this also connected to trying to get the Jenkins jobs essentially out of Jenkins and under, GitHub control?
Not strictly. Well, yeah, I mean, yes, it is in the sense that Mark was going to help with that, and I just need to give him permission in Jenkins. Just to start looking. That doesn't solve the problem. That gets one more set of eyes on the issue. It's not in quite the same way the blocker is that the registry is. And Gabriel, I forget now specifically what you're blocked on.
Oh, many things.
Yeah. But how many of them are registry related, first of all?
The registry is only these the BC box that we were using. But the last message that I got from Daf on regards to that part is he said that he basically cloned or made a copy of the BC box from Docker Hub into the registry, but there is some kind of permissions issues that are still there present. Well, that's something that the last time that I checked, probably a week or two ago. I haven't checked again, and I just made some changes locally, and I have been kind of like reviewing some PRs from the control plane based on that local change. But for the general user, that's going to be still kind of like an issue in there.
Okay, so I having a list will help. So I know we have the Docker base, and now we have the BusyBox image, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so these are two images that we need in the registry they're not being there is blocking stuff. Is there anything else like that?
In regards to the registry, no, at least as far as I know.
Okay. So the time, just to close this one off, Timon's point is that if I need the Docker base image, for example, for something I want to do, then I can debug my jobs against it to find out what's lacking, and then that tells us what goes in that image. And maybe there's something similar here. So that's a way that we can move this forward. What else is on your list, Gabriel?
Well, again, regarding the registry itself, nothing else. That's kind of the only thing that I've seen the issue at the moment, at least for the different.
Yeah. So moving on from the registry, what else is on your list?
Yeah. So the UPF in Docker Hub, it seems like the storage assigned for the images for the UPF is kind of like getting out of space. So the latest images are not being actually pushed into Docker Hub.
Okay. Got it.
And is this getting captured somewhere, Larry, in the minutes? I'm not seeing edits going in. Yeah.
Oh, well, let me right. I was just making a couple of notes to myself. Very good. Thank you. Let me find a place to record this. And BusyBox. All right. And the second issue is on Docker Hub, and their UPF images can't be pushed due to some sort of storage quota.
Yeah, to be more specific, it indicates that there is only 97 megs available of storage.
All right, thanks. Can anyone with any specificity on this order give us another blocker? So, I mean, unraveling this, of course, there's a bunch of Jenkins jobs that are stuck, but well, no, all right. So I will add one here, which is Jenkins. Very simply give Mark access.
And I don't know what's
Oh.
the root cause of it, but in the NSSF, in SD core, the FOSA and license verification don't work. I don't know if it's related to one of the above mentioned problems. But...
No. Okay. So before we move into the Jenkins, one more thing in Docker regarding the UPF images. Would it make sense to just delete older images from the UPF?
Oops. I don't know. What it?
No, I'm asking.
No, like Gabriel, we need to see like what are the existing images, and probably we can like delete it based on some criteria, like either too old images or something. Right?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned, because he has lots of images in there. I think starting from 2020.
All right.
Okay,
So once again, if we could get AJ, I don't know, AJ Gabriel could have access to that, it would help, and you could start pruning dated stuff out of there.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, going back to Jenkins, based on what Yulam indicated, there is the NSSF repo and the metrics font repo. Those are the FOSA and license verifications fail due to some kind of misconfiguration in the Jenkins jobs. It indicates that the, let me give you the specific error.
All right. So license check fails. I know it's got another name, but I can't think of it offhand. So which NSSF?
NSSF.
I'm sorry,
it's a network slice selection function.
Yeah.
Slice selection function.
Yeah. Okay. I had two S's. Was there a second one?
The metric font. Basically, the issue with this, it says that the Jenkins job has a permission denied from GitHub, so it cannot actually read the remote repository. That's the same issue for both repos. This is something that I communicate to DAF. I sent a few direct messages last week to let him know all these issues.
All right. All right. So once again, if we could, all right, no, just a second. This is not a Jenkins. Well, this is Jenkins / Aether CI management issue, because the Jenkins job there it originates with a JJB spec that's in Aether CI management, but resyncing Jenkins with that is a bigger job. It's probably possible to fix it by hand in Jenkins. So access to Jenkins here would be helpful.
Yeah. One more thing is not just the license validation that fails, but it's also the FOSA validation that fails. Both fail with the same error.
Yeah. What's that? What's the spelling in that?
FOSSA.
SSA. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other specifics like this that we can and so one answer here is we enable ourselves to take care of it or to move this forward, which is, I mean, not that we don't want to have backup and help for that, but all right. Well, that actually is a much better more precise discussion than the one I had outlined, but it's a very similar one, only in the sense that we have housekeeping to do and we need more community access to these things so people can start working on this. Let me just call out a couple examples. And again, these are nowhere near as pressing as the blockers, obviously, but for example, Gabriel, after last week's call, pointed out that he'd like to move the Helm charts from Garrett to GitHub. I think I generalized it. There's a bunch of stuff in Garrett that we would be better off if we moved it to GitHub. And part of that is that so much of what is in Garrett is historical, and it's not what we're using today anyway.
And as noted by me earlier as well, there appears to be some sort of configuration problem with Garrett in that even if new users did want to contribute something to Garrett, they can't. There seems to be something wrong with the SSH keys or something. So even more reasons to move away from Garrett.opencord.
All right, so let's start a list here and get people. I know there are some complications in this. So when we say Garrett, I'm pretty sure we're talking OpenCord, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm going to start drawing on Scott and Andy and Ujong's recollections here as much as anybody. So we've got the Helm charts. And I know there's sort of two levels of Helm charts. There's Helm source, and then there's, I'll just put Helm charts.
Document websites content is also on the Garrett.
Docker
documents. This Aether doc or
the documentation.
Aether doc. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We won't dox Ether, but we will dox it. All right. Well, all right. So Ether CI management is clearly here. We need to resync it. What else? Well, all right. So there's Ether system tests, but that's another example of where I don't know how many of those are really being used today anyway. I guess the API test is in there. We need to obviously do a more careful audit, but does anything else jump out at people as living in the open? I'm pretty sure this is OpenCord.
And are you including code repositories as well, Larry?
Yes, let's include everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's been years now, but it feels like we did a lot of our code development in Garrett.
Yeah, but how much of that is still being used? So everything rock related, Ether monitor is there, maybe there. Everything rock related is in ONOS. Everything SD core related is in OMEC. RAN related is in primarily open or ONOS.
Rock as well is in the ONOS.
Rock is in ONOS. So Scott, you're right, but I'm not sure how much is still there. That's So if I could ask, especially, and maybe I could just put together a spreadsheet. For those that have historical, especially those with historical background here, if we could make an audit of what's in OpenCord Garrett that is still critical going forward, it would give us a good start.
Yeah, I think if someone just listed us the repo names, we would probably, remember them. I'm just looking to see. Yeah, I can actually access it all without logging in, so I can kind of see what's in there. And there's well, gosh, just getting up to A was all of page 1. So there may be, and there's more A's on. There may be a lot of pages of repositories. So
Ether Helm charts, is that where anything Ansible, I think, is no longer being used, and that clears out a whole bunch of stuff. Ether Helm charts, I'm trying to remember.
I think this must be the umbrella Helm chart for.
There are the yeah, sorry. I'm confusing this with SD core Helm chart. Sorry.
Yeah. That's part of the. All right. I know that the rock helm charts. So Ether Helm charts may be obsolete now.
Yeah, I have
We got
never
the
used
rock
them.
helm charts. We got the core helm charts. We got the ran helm charts. That's the kind of thing that we need to figure out. Anyway, going back, what else is here?
Yeah,
Ansible, I think is.
I'm not even sure where the UPF Helm chart is kept in all of this.
Those are in the
UPF is
SD
in
fabric.
Onos.
No, that's
It's
in
the
the
SD
fabric.
fabric. SD fabric Helm chart.
Yeah, SD fabric Helm chart. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Inside the
that's
SD
it.
fabric, you're gonna have a base UPF directory.
Okay.
Man, as I'm looking through
No,
this,
you can use the search Larry at the top. Yeah,
no,
yeah,
I'm not
too
searching.
many.
I'm just kind of scanning it, and
Mm.
I think we would discover that there's maybe half a dozen of these repos that we are still using. And OLT, I mean, this is way back.
And then Larry so maybe I missed the lead up to this, but are we like permanently destroying whatever we're not keeping, or?
Oh, no.
Okay.
We'll archive it.
Okay.
Yeah, Scott, this
there
is
was
just
useful
about
stuff there, but it goes back a long ways.
Yeah, this is about simplifying the world we have to that we know we have to maintain, and ultimately back to this point, which we need to know what needs to be owned and who the owner is. And we're just full of cracks right now, as in stuff falls through. So because I just saw it, there was a repo called SD Core Docs. AJ, is the SD Core Docs in Garrett the official one, or is that in OMAC?
Yes, it's in
Yeah,
Garrett.
no, yeah, it's
All right.
used. Yeah, it's in Garrett. Yeah.
Since we know some right now, I'm just writing it down. I'm not sure. I have to go look. I don't think that's still being used, but maybe I'm wrong. All right. So my ask is if AJ, Scott, Andy, Wuzhong, anyone that has some history here, in particular, could go through OpenCore Garrett and flag. And quite frankly, if you've got access to the notes here, just for right now, because it's just the easiest thing to do, and I think this list is going to turn out to be pretty short, just go ahead and note it here. Let me just put a comment in here. All right. All right, so the takeaways are that we've got some blockers, and if we could enable a few people to get their hands into these registries and so on, we could make progress. Anyone that is able to use the Docker images and reproduce the problems and get the base image fixed up would be good.
Larry, one more blocker is GitHub. So you can to another section, please, related to GitHub.
Okay, GitHub.
Yeah, in here, the UDR repo is misconfigured. So there is no, at the moment, there is no need for an approval before a PR is merged. So that needs to be aligned with the rest of the repos that, you know, the PR needs to be approved before it's merged.
Okay.
I was reviewing earlier today another repo, PR in the DBUF repo, DBUF. I don't know if this is in general, but at least I don't have. GitHub says that I don't have the rights to approve a PR and merge. So I don't know if it is just me or some specific misconfiguration for this repo.
So Gabriel, you wanted to make some changes in this repository?
No, I wanted to approve a PR from the canonical team to move, go from 115 to 121.
I see. Okay, because we have not used this functionality for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, again, just approving the PR from the canonical team.
And this probably is not synced with best UPF. I think it works only with the P4.
Only with P4 UPF, yeah.
Okay.
So we don't, it's misconfigured because it's old. Did I get that right?
That's what I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that is what I have from GitHub so far. And one last comment, probably improvement on the Helm charts. Are we planning to, I mean, last week I was kind of reviewing several PRs on the control plane. It was, you know, before I have worked with the RIC, and when kind of making changes into the different source repositories and then deploy them in as part of SD run in a box has been pretty straightforward. But the way how the Helm charts are for the SD core doesn't seem that kind of user friendly. Then, you know, there are several changes that need to be done under the hood to be able to actually use the local image with the rest of the components of the core network to run a test. Is there a way to, you know, take a look into these Helm charts and see whether they can be improved or make it kind of user friendly?
So I mean, I do use the local image, Gabriel. If you're facing some problem, I'm not sure how the SD-RAN team is doing it, but what is it that you tried and why you are not able to use it? That probably I can understand. And definitely if there is a scope for improvement, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the
It
first
should be
thing,
fine,
for
yeah.
example, the SD-RAN, the SD core assumes that, you know, all the repos are pointing to the same remote registry, which overall is correct, right? But if you want to use, let's say, one repo locally, you cannot do that because it assumes that all the repos are pointing to the same registry, which is remote. That's one of the things. The other thing is that to be able to use your local image and make changes locally into the repos, you need to make a few changes in the values. So no, it's not the values. I have this part in here. You need to make a local change into the chart YAML file, because that one is, even though, you know, the SD core is actually pointing to the 5G control plane from the charts that etherproject.org, instead of actually using the local changes to be able to actually use the local image. We can have a follow-up call I can give the whole explanation of this, of what I have been doing, and probably, you know, you can have a better alternative on that. But it hasn't been as straightforward as it was done before with the SD-RAN help charts.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Top of the hour here, pretty close. Is there anything else?
I just pushed the chat. I'd encourage any old timers to look at. I think it's impacting the inference team ability to do some of this permission expansion that we want to be doing. Some of the infrastructure. Just read the chat if you've been with ONF for a while. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, well, actually, let me capture this. I'm going to put it in as a blocker. Yeah, close enough. All right, I think that's good enough to call it a day. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see. We'll pick this one up and keep pushing until we get past it. But thanks for your patience and contributions. All right.
Thanks, Sean. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.